I dated a tycoon for revenge. Shocking double betrayal by my husband and best friend. At the edge of a world where power and trust intertwine, Lila stood on the precipice of heartbreak. Picture this, a cozy coffee shop bustling with life, a perfect view of the street outside. Lila, bright-eyed and hopeful, sipped her caramel latte, completely unaware that a storm was brewing just beyond the glass. Her heart raced, not from caffeine, but from thumping anticipation of a surprise dinner date with Tom, her husband of 5 years. As the door swung open, a gust of chilly air mixed with an unsettling feeling in her gut. Was it nerves or something else? She shrugged it off, determined to relish the moment, but it wasn't Tom who stepped through that door. It was Jack, her best friend, and the man she thought she could trust with her darkest secrets. His smirk sent a chill down her spine. Jack glanced at Lila, then turned abruptly, seemingly looking for someone else. For a split second, their eyes locked, and she felt that strange, uncomfortable jolt of familiarity. Something was off. As Lila reached for her phone, her fingers trembled. She hesitated, staring at the screen, lost in a storm of thoughts. Why was Jack there? Why hadn't she heard from Tom all day? Just then, a couple across the room erupted into laughter, jolting her back to reality. The sounds echoed in her mind, but dread settled like a heavy weight on her chest. Each laugh felt like a knife twisting deeper within her. In that moment, Lila decided to take matters into her own hands. She rose from her seat, determination coursing through her veins like fire. She would confront Tom about his unexplained absence and Jack about his bizarre behavior. The coffee shop dimmed, but her spirit ignited with each step towards the door. What secrets were hidden under the glossy surface of their perfect lives? She had no idea just how deep the betrayal ran. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as she stepped outside, her heart was pounding with adrenaline. Lila spotted Tom across the street, laughing with a woman whose long, dark hair shimmered in the setting sun. The sight sent a shockwave through her, twisting the knot in her stomach tighter. Who is she? Was he really seeing someone else? Their laughter seemed to dance through the air, mocking her disbelief. The world around her faded. She felt both weightless and crushed by the reality of what she was witnessing. A slew of emotions washed over her: anger, betrayal, confusion. She gritted her teeth, fists clenched at her side. Lila couldn't let this moment define her. She turned away from the scene, grappling with the messy cocktail of pain and liberation brewing inside her. She had to know more. She would get revenge, and it would be so sweet. But the lingering questions taunted her as she walked away. What had Tom and Jack been hiding? Would she ever find out the truth? Lila felt the chill of betrayal seep deep into her bones as she walked away from the coffee shop, her feet moving almost on autopilot. Her heart raced, and with every step, it pounded in her ears like a war drum. She needed answers, but her mind swirled, making it impossible to focus. What was she going to do? March up to Tom and confront him about his blatant infidelity? The image of his laughter with that woman stung like a bee, sharp and unrelenting, but as she turned a corner down an alley, she saw a flash of movement in her peripheral vision. It was Jack, lurking near a parked car. The familiar smirk from earlier twisted her stomach. Anger bubbled inside her, threatening to spill over, but she forced herself to breathe. She had questions. She wanted answers, and now seemed as good a time as any. "Jack," she shouted, her voice echoing off the brick walls. He jumped slightly, twisting around, surprised to see her approaching so fiercely. She narrowed her eyes, summoning as much bravado as she could muster. "What the hell are you doing here?" Jack straightened up, his smirk fading into a look of uncertainty. Lila, I spare me the excuses. You were just in the coffee shop with Tom, weren't you? The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. His silence was all the answer she needed. You're supposed to be my best friend, and you betray me like this? With my husband? Each word felt like a bullet, aimed straight at his heart. I can explain, he stammered, running a hand through his hair. But his stance was defensive, trying to control the conversation before it spiraled further. Explain what? How you decided to stab me in the back. You are no better than him. She stepped closer, adrenaline surging through her fists balled tightly. The tension crackled between them as she forced herself to calm down, feigning control over the storm of emotions threatening to rage inside. Jack shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting. It's not what you think, Lila. If you'd just let me know. She cut him off, her voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. You think I'll just stand here and listen to some twisted version of the truth? I see what I see, and I'm done being lied to. Just then, a fleeting thought pierced through her rage, a deep-seated fear of losing everything she once held dear. What if Jack was right? What if there was more to this betrayal than what she grasped? Her hands shook, the fury mixing with helplessness. Lila, he tried again, softer this time, but still dripping with his version of the truth. She couldn't let him manipulate her feelings now. Tell me the truth, Jack. Did Tom know you'd be there? Do you care about me at all? He hesitated, and that hesitation felt like a dagger to her heart. I thought I could protect you by lying? By keeping secrets? She took a step back, her breath hitching in her throat. Protect me from what? The truth? A distant siren wailed in the background, eerily validating the chaos unfurling within her. The thought struck her, sending a chill down her spine. Jack might be involved in something far more sinister than she realized. His fabrications could hide a darker truth. Before she could ask another question, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it, but the urgency in the vibration reflected her heart's frantic rhythm. Jack was right in front of her, but the world felt like it was spinning out of control. She was thirsty for answers, but they were swirling around her, just out of reach. What's going on, Jack? You have to tell me. The air between them thickened, and for the first time, fear twisted her stomach. What if knowing meant unleashing something she couldn't put back? Suddenly, Jack's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it. The color drained from his face, and she could sense his panic. He looked at her wide-eyed. We have to go. Now. Her heart raced anew, confusion tearing through her. Go where? What do you mean? Just trust me. You're in danger, they know you're onto something, he urged, his urgency mounting. The air crackled with uncertainty as Lila weighed his words. Should she follow Jack into the unknown? Or was this just another trap? She took a deep breath, and one thought flashed in her mind. She had to find out who really controlled her destiny. Would she dare take the leap? And with that, she made her choice, taking the first step down a path that could either lead to her liberation or total destruction. Lila's heart hammered in her chest as she stared at Jack, his eyes wide with urgency, as if an unseen predator was closing in on them. She hesitated for one breath, a glimpse of normalcy in a storm of panic. Just hours ago, she had been sipping coffee, believing she had a life intertwined with love and loyalty. Now that illusion was shattered. Why should I trust you? She spat, but even to her own ears, the edge of her anger trembled. The darkness clawing at her thoughts whispered of threats she couldn't comprehend. She had stepped out of one nightmare only to find herself at the edge of another. Because I'm trying to save you, Lila. I messed up, okay? But there's more at stake than you know, Jack urged, glancing around the alley as if shadows might swallow him whole. They're onto you. You have to only come with me. Her instincts screamed at her, sending jolts of adrenaline racing through her body. He was still her friend, wasn't he? What do you mean they're onto me? Who's they? Jack hesitated again, body tense like a coiled spring. A flash of fear crossed his face, and Lila caught the unmistakable hint of sweat beading at his brow. I can't explain here. Just please. You need to come with me. It's not safe, he pleaded, his voice low and frantic. She weighed her options. Trusting him felt like leaping into darkness, though something in his desperation pulled at her heart. What will we even do? Get away from here. We need to regroup, Lila. I know a place. His eyes darted to the entrance of the alley as if expecting to see unspeakable horrors at any moment. The sirens in the distance grew louder, blending fear with urgency, wrapping their chaotic encounter in an eddy of uncertainty. She could either stand her ground and confront Tom directly, or follow Jack into the unknown, leaving everything behind. "Fine," she said, the word escaping like a breath she didn't know she was holding. "But you better have answers." Without another second to spare, Jack grabbed her wrist and pulled her into the shadows, the alley swallowing them whole. The city's heartbeat faded, leaving only the echo of their hurried footsteps against the pavement. Every glance back felt like a piece of her former safety dissipating into the cold night. As they emerged onto a busy street, the night bustled with life, bright lights flickering in the distance. She wished she could blend and act normal, but the tension in her chest betrayed her. Jack led her down a series of streets, each turn plunging her deeper into uncharted territory. "Where are we going?" she asked, trying to catch her breath. "Just a few more blocks," he replied, voice urgent but steady. A part of her wondered if he was leading her to safety or disaster. They turned down a narrow alley, illuminated only by a flickering neon sign. Jack stopped suddenly, his face pale. "We need to hurry, I feel like we're being followed." Lila's stomach sank. Followed? By who? Before he could answer, a group of men appeared at the far end of the alley, moving toward them with menacing intent. The shadows whispered and clawed at her sanity as dread pooled in her stomach. "Jack, what is happening?" she gasped, grasping his arm tightly. His face turned grim, and for the first time, the smirk was gone, replaced with palpable fear. "Run, Lila. Don't look back." Without thinking, she turned and took off, heart racing with a mix of panic and adrenaline coursing through her veins. The pounding footsteps behind them echoed louder, as if the chase had begun. In a moment of desperation, a chilling realization poured over her like ice water. She had stepped into a game much larger than herself, a web of lies and deceit that could lead to her undoing. And just as she thought they might reach safety, a sharp voice rang out behind them. "Jack, you can't run from this. We know what you did." Lila's heart thundered. What had Jack gotten her into? As fear took hold, she felt the walls closing in. What would she do now? Trust him to the end or make a stand against an unseen enemy? The narrow alley spilled into the main street, a cacophony of noise crashing over Lila as she ran. Her breath came quick and ragged, each inhale sharp with fear. Jack was beside her, his grip on her arm firm and urgent, pulling her along as the world blurred into a dizzying whirl of lights and shadows. "Lila, keep going," Jack shouted, barely audible over the crowd. The men were close now, their footsteps echoing behind them, desperate and determined. She felt the pulse of the city against her skin, the warmth of bodies brushing past, yet it provided no comfort. Their eyes were indifferent to her plight as fear twisted in her gut. She risked a glance back, and what she saw made her heart lurch. The men were gaining. What do they want? Lila's voice trembled, tears threatening to spill. Jack's face was a concoction of worry and anger, and as she looked into his eyes, a flicker of uncertainty danced in his gaze. "Something I did," he admitted, voice strained. "I should never have gotten involved. But trusting me is your best chance. Please, just trust me." Each word felt like an anchor, tethering her insane thoughts. But doubt gnawed at her insides. The city felt suffocating, a trap closing in. Before she could answer, another shout came from behind, filled with the weight of dread. "You can't escape the consequences, Jack." Adrenaline surged through her, and she picked up her pace, as if they could outrun fate itself. "Where are we going?" she gasped. "There's a safe house, a friend I can trust. You'll be safe there." "Safe? You call this safe?" Panic bubbled in her voice, and the shadows seemed to thicken around them. Every glance, every sudden movement sent jolts of terror coursing through her body. "Just a little further," Jack urged as they dashed into another narrow side street, the neon signs flickering ominously. The men surged forward, relentless. Shadows danced in the corners of her vision, dark and menacing. A sudden crash froze her mid-step. A garbage can tipped over, spilling its contents onto the pavement. Lila stumbled, heart in her throat. "Go. I'll hold them off," Jack shouted, determination flickering across his face. "Are you insane?" Fear clawed at her throat. They were too close, too dangerous. "We can't split up." He tightened his jaw. "It's the only way, Lila. Trust me. I'll catch up." The desperation in his voice forced her instincts to collide. Every fiber screamed for her to stay, to protect him. But the flickering streetlights cast doubt on her decisions, and with the men closing in, she hesitated only a moment before clutching his arm. "I'll find you," she cried, forcing the words through a tight throat. Without waiting for a response, she bolted, her feet pounding against the pavement. Behind her, there was chaos as Jack threw himself toward the men, blocking their path. She fought the urge to turn back as the alley swallowed her whole. The city blurred, her mind racing with fear and questions. She rounded several corners, her legs felt like lead, but she pushed on propelled by the need for safety, the longing for answers. Her heart thumped so loudly, she feared it might betray her, giving her away. As she reached a crossroads, she stopped to catch her breath. Every instinct screamed that she was being watched. Did Jack make it? Would she ever see him again? The unease grew, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket, and then a chilling realization slammed into her. There was no more running. The danger was far too real, and she was deeper in than she ever intended. But what choice did she have now? Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced down, the screen lit up with an unknown call. "Hello?" She answered, each syllable drenched in suspicion. A deep voice responded, smooth yet laced with menace. "Lila, you need to know we've been watching you. And now, it's your turn to make a choice." A knot twisted in her stomach, a cold sweat breaking on her brow. What choice? And who was on the other end of the line? The walls were closing in fast. The city felt like a labyrinth of threats, and she could feel them, tightening around her like a noose. What fate awaited her with each step back into the darkness? A stifling silence enveloped Lila as she waited for a response. The voice on the line seemed too aware, too calculated, cutting through her veins like ice. "What do you mean, watching me?" she demanded, her voice quivering with both fear and indignation. "Everything," the voice replied, unfazed. "The moment you stepped into that alley, we knew you were on the run. Jack brought you into our game, and now you need to decide how you want to play." A chill coursed through her. Game? This wasn't a game. People were in danger. Jack was in danger. "You leave him out of this," she shouted, fists clenched, panicked anger gripping her. "You misunderstand, Lila," he continued, his tone unnervingly calm. "Your choices can protect him or seal his fate. It's that simple." As the words settled over her like a heavy shroud, she felt the panic rise again, clawing at her throat. She swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" "Meet me. I'll explain everything," he instructed, a hint of dark amusement lacing his voice. "We'll be at the old docks in an hour. Bring a friend if you want, but you'll have to decide quickly who you can truly trust." Before she could react, the line went dead. Lila stared at her phone, her breath quickening. What kind of twisted game was this? Instinct told her to run again, but where? Jack's image ignited a fierce resolve within. She had to find him. Panic waned slightly as she realized she needed more information. Tracing her steps back to the main street wouldn't do. She glanced around, searching for a familiar face in the crowd, a glimmer of hope. Just then, she spotted a small diner across the street, its neon sign flickering weakly. It was a place she and Jack had often passed, a potential refuge. As she sprinted across the street, she felt the weight of every eye on her. People flowed by, oblivious to her urgency, but she could sense their curiosity, their silent judgments, palpable heat against her skin. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of coffee and grease. She spotted a booth in the corner, unoccupied. Sliding into the seat, she waved her hand at the waitress, a woman in her 50s with a weathered smile. "Can I have a coffee, please?" Lila asked, half listening. There was something comforting about the hustle of everyday life here, though her own adrenaline pumped like crazy. While waiting, her mind raced. Jack and her slipped into this life out of love, but now everything felt like a dark spiral. She replayed every moment with him, every second that led to this chaos. A soft buzzing at the edge of her consciousness urged her to reach for her phone again. Was it time to call him? Or, even better, call someone else? Who could she trust? Was there really only one choice to make? The old docks could be a trap, but at the same time, it felt like the only lead she had. Minutes crawled by until her warm coffee arrived. The waitress offered a sympathetic smile, but soon moved on, leaving Lila to her thoughts. Seconds felt like hours, and hope flickered like the dim light above her. Then her phone buzzed again in her pocket. Heart racing, she pulled it out, breath hitching as she glanced at the screen. It was a text from Jack, the words appearing one by one, each letter dripping with urgency. Lila, I'm at the safe house. They're coming for you. Get somewhere safe. She bolted upright, adrenaline crashing over her. The safe house? Why had he gone there? Wasn't he supposed to hold them off? An icy grip of dread seized her stomach. She had a choice to make now. Was she going to the docks to confront her unknown tormentor, or should she rush to Jack's side? In that moment, everything blurred into motion. Each second a ticking clock, sending her down a dark path. The sound of footsteps behind her made her heart race, echoing her own restless thoughts. But as she turned toward the door, hands trembling on the handle, a voice rose from the back of the diner, a low, familiar chuckle. Leaving so soon, Lila? She froze, dread spilling over into icy fear. The last thing she expected to see was someone she knew, and with them, all the chaos of her life poured back in. Would this encounter change everything yet again? Or would it finally lead her to the answer she so desperately needed? The moment felt like a cliffhanger. One wrong step could throw her into a chasm of despair. What was the secret they held, and at what cost? Lila's heart thudded against her chest. She turned slowly, and as her eyes locked on the figure sitting at the counter, her stomach twisted painfully. It was Tom, Jack's older brother, and the last person she wanted to see in a moment of such chaos. He grinned, but the warmth she once felt from him now seemed sinister. Tom, what are you doing here? Her voice came out firmer than she felt, defiance bubbling up against the vulnerability threatening to consume her. I could ask you the same question, he replied, his eyes narrowing slightly. But we both know you're not really here for coffee. Lila glanced around the diner, searching the faces of the few patrons. A tense silence pulsed through the air, and she sensed that some of them were watching her closely, their queries audible in their intrigued expressions. Listen, I don't have time for games, she spat, every instinct urging her to bolt. I need to get to Jack. Maybe I can help with that, Tom said, his voice deceptively smooth. Word on the street is you're in over your head. Let me give you a hand. The offer hung there, heavy and foreboding. Trusting him could take her deeper into danger, but could she afford to dismiss him outright? Connections ran thick in this world, and Tom knew the kind of things that might help her navigate this treacherous moment, but the comforting scent of coffee turned bitter in her mouth. Why should I trust you? Last I checked, you weren't exactly looking out for us. Her chest tightened with the memory of Jack's calls for help and the shadows lurking in the corners of her mind. His laugh cracked through the silence, a sharp sound that sent a chill crawling up her spine. Come on, Lila. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be on the floor. We both know that you need someone like me tonight. Let us make a deal. The irony twisted inside her. Tom was her ally, yet in Jack's absence, he felt like a potential threat. What kind of deal? She asked, her voice an echo of the fear from earlier. I tell you how to keep Jack safe, and in return, you let me help clear your name, he said. There's a lot of noise about you right now. You're being hunted. Just then, the door swung open suddenly, drawing their attention. A sharp gust brought in two men clad in dark jackets, their eyes scanning the diner as if looking for a specific target. Lila felt a sudden chill of recognition. They were not just random threats. They were the same men she'd seen looming at Jack's safe house. Lila, Tom said suddenly, his expression shifting from charming to urgent. Get ready to move. We don't have time to play around. The urgency in his tone pierced through her indecision. Yet the thought of following him into the fray sent icy shivers down her spine. Why should I trust you? What if you're just playing some game? Because if you don't, they'll find you first, he growled, now fully serious. Had she truly run out of options? As the men's footsteps drew nearer, the tension in the diner stilled. Lila's breath came out in shallow gasps. She glanced towards the door, then back at Tom, caught in a vice of trust and betrayal. Okay, let us go, she muttered, knowing she was stepping into an uncertain future. Just as they moved toward the exit, Tom's grip tightened on her arm. But if we go, Lila, there's no turning back. Once the truth comes out, we can't go back to how things were. You'll have to face the reality of who you can really trust, including me. As they slipped out into the night, Lila's mind raced. What truth awaited her just around the corner? Would Jack be safe, or would she inadvertently put him in more danger? With their footsteps echoing in the darkness, Lila felt her resolve harden. But doubt lingered like a dark cloud, threatening to close in around her as uncertainty consumed her thoughts. What awaited them on the darkened streets, and would she find the answers she desperately sought before it was too late? The cold air wrapped around Lila like a wet blanket as Tom practically dragged her down the deserted street. The diner faded behind them, a distant world filled with murky shadows and half-heard murmurs. Lila's heart raced, pounding out a rhythm of fear and confusion. She stole a glance back. Was it paranoia, or had those dark-suited men followed them? Keep moving, Tom urged, his voice a low whisper. We need to get to my car. With every hurried step, Lila wrestled with her thoughts and emotions. What was the truth Tom was talking about? The kind of truth that could tie them up in even deeper knots? Tom, wait. She tugged at his arm. If we're doing this, I need to know what's really going on. Who are they? He paused, eyes scanning the street for any sign of danger. They're part of a larger network. People who don't just play rough, they play to win. And they want you. A spike of dread twisted in her gut. Why me? What did I do? Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're linked to Jack. Wherever he goes, you go. And right now, they think you might know where he is. Great, she muttered under her breath. Just great. Tom's grip on her arm softened slightly, as if sensing her spiraling panic. You're stronger than you realize, Lila. But the only way out of this is to confront it head-on. He gestured toward a parked car, its dark color blending with the night. They hurried to it, climbing inside without a moment to breathe. Tom's fingers danced over the ignition, flicking the engine to life. The dull roar echoed in her ears, a sound of urgency racing against the backdrop of her maelstrom of thoughts. As they pulled away, the streetlights flickered overhead, casting shadows that twisted and turned like specters chasing them. Where are we going? Lila asked, gripping the seat as anxiety swirled around her. I know a place that's safe for now, Tom replied, his gaze fixed intently on the road. But we need to talk. Every second we waste puts Jack in greater danger. The implication sent a chill down her spine. You're not telling me everything, she pressed, narrowing her eyes at him. He took a deep breath, a hint of hesitation in his features. Jack's involved in something bigger than either of us realized. And he didn't want you to know for your own protection. Protection? The bitterness in her voice shocked even her. I just want to help him. You're not making sense, Tom. No one ever does when they're in too deep, he said quietly. But that's the reality we're in. As they sped through the night, the darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating. Lila felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. The shadows of those men loomed large in her mind, a constant reminder that they were being hunted. Tom pulled into an abandoned building parking lot, its windows boarded up like eyes watching from the darkness. This is it, he whispered. Lila's heart dropped as they stepped out. The tension in the air crackled like the calm before a storm. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. What is the plan? Tom rubbed the back of his neck, frustration and fear twisting his features. We wait for a contact who can give us intel. If we play our cards right, we might be able to figure out our next move. Just then, her phone vibrated violently in her pocket, a sound that felt like a bomb ticking down. She pulled it out, freezing as she read the message. We have Jack. Come alone if you want to see him again. No, no. She felt the world tilt beneath her. They have him. We have to go back. Tom's expression shifted, clarity cutting through the confusion. Lila, we need to think this through, but as she met his eyes, fire burned within her. There was no time to think. Jack was in danger, and she could feel it in her bones. The stakes were rising, and with it, an urgency that couldn't be ignored. There's no time for second thoughts, Tom. We're going in. The night deepened around them as they prepared to face whatever awaited inside those dark walls, and Lila felt the weight of her choices, each one leading her closer to an outcome she could never foresee. What had she set in motion, and would the truth shield or shatter her when it finally revealed itself? The air inside the abandoned building was stale and heavy, like it had been holding its breath for years. Buried memories clung to the peeling wallpaper, and Lila could almost hear them whisper. They stood in the shadows, hearts pounding like drums in the stillness. Every creak of the floorboards underfoot felt louder than a thunderclap in her ears. Are you sure this is the right place? She whispered, doubt threading through her resolve. Tom's eyes darted around as if waiting for an answer from the walls themselves. It's our best shot. If anyone knows where Jack is, it's a sudden noise interrupted him, startling them both. The sharp click of a door latch echoed through the empty space, sending chills racing down Lila's spine. She instinctively stepped closer to Tom, feeling exposed, vulnerable. Tom, she began, but he held up a hand. Stay quiet, he breathed, moving toward a piece of furniture that looked like it hadn't been touched in ages. His muscles tightened as he peered around the corner, searching for the source of the sound. Lila felt tears spring to her eyes. Was this how it all ended? In a forgotten building with shadows creeping in on her. The door creaked open, and out stepped a figure cloaked in darkness. A silhouette tall and menacing, backlit by moonlight from a cracked window, stepped inside. Lila's breath hitched. Tom? The voice emerged, smooth and low, as though it were comforting. But there was something off about it. Tom's posture shifted. Mason, he replied, his tone suddenly cold. I wasn't expecting you. Lila's mind raced. Mason? The name rattled around her brain, but before she could grasp it, Mason stepped closer, revealing a face she recognized from blurred memories, a man who had shared a drink with Jack, a man who smiled cautiously but with malice shimmering just beneath the surface. Jack's been a bad boy, Mason said, his words practically dripping with derision. And you, Lila, are tangled in this mess because you care too much. She took a step back, confusion clashing with the awareness of danger. What do you mean? Mason laughed, a harsh, low sound that raised the hair on the back of her neck. Oh, darling, don't you see? You're worth more to Jack if you're sitting behind the wheel while he plays his little games. You're not just a pawn, you're a potential checkmate. What do you want? Lila's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. The truth, sweetheart, Mason replied, his gaze boring into hers. Let us play a little game. You tell me what you know, and I might just let you and your precious Jack walk away in one piece. Tom stepped forward, his entire body vibrating with tension. That's not happening, Mason. You're never getting anything from her. Ah, a noble protector, Mason chuckled, clearly enjoying the moment. But how far will that protectiveness go? Personally, I think the stakes are a bit too high for that. Besides, you do remember how this ends, don't you? With one of you making a sacrifice. Before Lila could catch her breath, the shadows shifted again, and a second figure emerged from the dark corner. It was another man in a dark suit, this one with a wild halo of hair and a smirk that sent icy fingers creeping down Lila's spine. Well, the newcomer drawled. Looks like we have a party and I wasn't invited. What do you want, Leo? Mason spat, annoyance flaring in his tone. Lila felt the air thicken around her. This was worse than she imagined. They were caught in a web, a trap closing in. I want you to hear what you've done, Lila. You think you're fighting for Jack. But that's just the beginning. I'm here to offer you a choice. Choice? Lila echoed, her heart racing. What kind of choice? Join us, he said, leaning closer, voice dripping with temptation. Or watch Jack fall. Your move. The room swelled with silence, pregnant with unspoken fears and sinister possibilities. Lila felt the world twist around her, gravity drawing her deeper into the dark. What choice could she possibly make now, with everything she cared about hanging by a thread? In that moment, she realized the stakes had never been higher. As the shadows danced, so did her chance of saving Jack. But at what cost? Faced with insurmountable odds, she could feel the weight of their fate closing in, just beyond the edges of the endless abyss. What choice would she make, and would it lead to salvation or destruction? A silence hung in the air, thick as smoke. Lila's heart thundered in her chest, the choice recoiling like a rubber band pulled too tight. She barely registered Mason's smug smile, the way Leo leaned back into the shadows, his confidence radiating like a dark sun. Tom's eyes were fierce, locked onto Lila's face, daring her to make the wrong move. He stepped a fraction closer, his protective instincts screaming at him to shield her from whatever lay ahead. "Don't listen to them," he urged, but Lila could see the tremor in his voice. "Join us, Lila," Leo repeated, a mocking undertone creeping into his words. "You can be part of something much bigger than Jack. Don't you see? He's just a pawn too." The accusation stung. She was tired of being labeled, tired of these games that twisted her sense of reality. "What do you even know about Jack?" She shot back, her voice gaining strength, though a tremor betrayed her. "He's trying to do the right thing." Mason shrugged, his fingers drumming against his thigh. "If he were, he wouldn't have surrounded himself with people like us. The truth stings, doesn't it? You're in deeper than you ever thought." A prickle of fear danced across her skin, her mind racing back to the secrets Jack had kept. Details that didn't sit well. The odd encounters, the whispered conversations that vanished when she appeared. Mason was right, she had been blind. But was this the moment to confront it? Tom stepped forward, nearly blocking her view of the two men as if he could shield her from their dark revelations. "You're nothing but liars," he spat, and the anger quaked in his voice. "You think you can scare her into submission?" Leo rolled his eyes, dismissive. "Fear doesn't control, it liberates. Trust me, she'll thank us when it's all said and done." "Thank you? Or thank you for dragging me into a nightmare?" Lila interjected, her panic rising. There was a storm brewing beneath the surface, and she felt as though she was caught in the eye. Shadows loomed closer, and with them, fresh threats. "I'll make this simple." Mason's expression turned serious, his previous mockery stripped away. "Tell us what you know, or Tom pays the price." The truth of his words hit her like a punch to the gut. Her gaze snapped to Tom, whose lips pressed into a thin line, unyielding. She could see the gears turning in his mind, each second stretching and twisting, the weight of their entire reality crashing down. "No," she breathed. The word barely escaped her lips, but it was resolute. It was the only answer she had. The room erupted in a tense silence. Tom's hand tightened into a fist, each breath a war he was fighting. Mason exchanged a glance with Leo, and a collective understanding passed between them. The atmosphere pulsed with unspoken threats, the promise of violence lurking behind every smirk. Suddenly, as if summoned by their rising stakes, the distant sound of sirens pierced the heavy stillness outside like a beacon of hope or impending doom. Leo scowled, his lazy confidence slipping, while Mason's eyes narrowed. "We don't have time for this," Mason hissed, and the air shifted, charged with an impending confrontation. Lila felt a flicker of strength, the fire inside her igniting. "You think you can control everything, but you're wrong," she snapped, fury overtaking fear. "I'll never join you." The rage in Mason's face twisted, revealing a glimpse of the monster he truly was. "Then we play by my rules." Before anyone could react, he lunged and chaos erupted. Tom surged forward, reaching for Lila, but the darkness exploded around them. Shadows swirled as they crashed against each other, limb to limb, breath to breath. Screams mingled with shouts in a cacophony of panic. In the middle of the madness, Lila's eyes darted around for a way out, searching through the chaos, clinging to the last vestiges of hope that hadn't suffocated under despair. But just as the realization landed, Jack had to be involved in this somehow, and the real battle was far from over. Darkness consumed them, and then she heard it, a gunshot, sharp and jarring, splitting the air like lightning, demanding attention. Is this how it all ends? She could hardly breathe as fear clutched her heart. As the smoke cleared, one question eclipsed the chaos: who would still be standing when the dust settled? The sharp echoes of chaos hung in the air, a cacophony of unforeseen wrath and despair. Lila's heart thundered in her ears as the gunshot rang out, piercing through the fray like a crystal knife slicing through fog. Time suspended, and in that moment, her world blurred, reality warping around the intensity of dread wrapping around her. Tom lunged toward her, his eyes wild with determination, just as Mason's grimace shifted to panic. The basement quaked with violence, bodies colliding, and chaos ensued as shadows undulated beneath flickering lights, and Lila's breath caught, her chest tightening as her thoughts raced. "Get down!" Tom shouted. Without thinking, Lila dropped to her knees, heart pounding loud enough to break through the chaos. The world spun, confusion whirling like leaves caught in a storm. Was Jack safe? Would she ever find closure? Mason's voice cut through the turmoil. "You don't know who you're dealing with, girl." His lips curled menacingly. "This isn't just about you and your little game of revenge. No more lies." Lila shouted, her courage rising like the tide. "I'm done playing your games." She locked eyes with Tom, a silent communication igniting between them. The weight of trust threaded through every heartbeat. Suddenly, Leo lunged toward her, eyes gleaming with vicious intent. Panic surged through Lila, but instinct drove her. She twisted away, pulling Tom with her as another gunshot exploded through the air. "Let us move," Tom bellowed, urgency slicing through the chaos. They ducked low, weaving through the tight confines of the building, fear racing on their heels. Lila's mind raced as they bolted down a narrow hallway. Jack, was he okay? She couldn't let this be the end. Not after everything. The adrenaline surged in her veins like a wild river, pushing her forward. Tom's grip tightened around her wrist as they reached a heavy door at the end. "On 3. He whispered, his voice gritty with resolve. 1, 2. The door burst open, uncovering a dimly lit parking lot just outside the building. But as they stepped outside, the reality of their situation crashed over her. "We need to find Jack," Lila insisted, her voice fierce. Tom turned, his eyes narrowing on the chaos unfolding behind them. "They won't just let us walk away. We don't have time." Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the distance, a storm brewing, just like her emotions. "Trust me," he said again, and she saw the desperation in his eyes. It was true, they were in too deep. The stakes had transformed into something unrecognizable. "Then help me save him," Lila demanded, determination surging through her entire being. Before Tom could respond, they heard footsteps approaching. The 2 men from earlier were quickly closing in, muttering in hushed voices. "Come on," Tom urged, gripping her hand tight. Together they sprinted toward the car parked near the back of the lot. The rusted vehicle cradled hope within its faded exterior. They dove into the car, the engine sputtering to life like a reluctant monster. Lila fumbled with the levers, fear swelling in her chest. "Where do we go? What do we do?" "Get out of the city. We can regroup and find a way to help Jack," he shouted, pulse racing. The roar of their engine dissolved into the night as they tore through the streets, shadows flickering past like memories. Panic clawed at her throat. Time was running thin. They had to act before those seeking Jack could close in. "Who are they?" Lila asked, glancing at Tom. In that moment, everything felt fragile, balances ready to tip. He turned somberly to her, brow furrowed. "Mason and Leo are part of a syndicate. They use people like pieces on a chessboard." His voice was grave with the weight of truth. "I will not let them win," Lila said fiercely, the fire of her resolve igniting again. "Jack deserves better, and so do I," Tom nodded, his eyes shimmering with understanding. "Then we track down their weakness. That's how we'll gain the upper hand," he encouraged, adrenaline thickening the air. They drove deeper into the night. The storm overhead broke, rain pouring down in sheets, washing the city's grime into the ground. But even as the rain poured, Lila felt clarity within the chaos. Each drop reflected her resolve to fight back. She wouldn't be a pawn. She'd seize control of her own narrative. Then, just as hope flared in her heart, her phone buzzed violently. It was a text from Jack. "Lila, I'm okay. I'm at the docks. Come please." Her heart soared, fueled by his words. "Tom. The docks, Jack S. at the docks." The urgency swelled as they swerved towards the pier, rain pelting against the windshield, thunder booming overhead like judgment. Lila clenched the edge of her seat, fear mixing with fierce hope. If they couldn't save Jack together, she'd have to confront an uncertain fate head-on. "Let us finish this," she said, determination etched firmly in her voice. "Yes," Tom replied, the resolve resonating in his tone, and they raced toward their destiny, hearts intertwined in a battle against the darkness threatening to engulf them. The docks loomed ahead, each wave crashing against the pier echoing the finality of their fight. Here was where the truth would either set them free or bury them deep in lies. As they skidded to a halt, Lila's heart pounded with fear and ferocity, prepared to face whatever horrors awaited in the depths of the night. This was at the moment of reckoning would finally arrive. Would it lead to redemption or destruction? In that heartbeat, she understood, the only way out was through. Together, they would unveil the truth, and she would fight for what she loved. "Let us go," Tom said, and together they stepped into the storm, ready for whatever came next. You need to subscribe now to catch every thrilling twist in Lila's journey. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, so more can join this epic adventure. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about how this will end. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a piece of this wild ride. Your support means everything. Let us dive deeper together.